They want it restored? The rattle can rebuild to the rescue. Alrighty, so we're back with the BarelyCuda, and we're here with the engine that is going in it. This is Dad's motorhome 440. And I was actually going to start this thing, but I was looking at it, and I'll just insert a clip of here of the 440 running. And so with that, going ahead and pulling these manifolds off. Oh, look at that. That one's been off and welded and re-cracked and beautiful, because we don't need those. They're paperweights. So we got 2 studs still in here, the rest of them pulled out. We got to take off the other side and get all the studs out, get all the water out of this thing. But the main premise we're doing here is, well, we're going to get all the crap off this that doesn't need to be on here, all the motorhome goo gob. But we need to get the intake carburetor off, because we're going to put the blower manifold on this, set the blower on it, bolt it all down like it should be. And then we'll be able to measure our snout length. If you're not familiar with what it is, like I said, if you're not familiar with blower snouts or blowers in general, you have a big snout that comes off the front of this where it's taped off. And that is your coupler and your drive. And that'll run to a cog belt that's mounted to the harmonic balancer, or to a crank hub in some applications, and that runs your cog belt, and you got a big tensioner, idler tensioner deal. We're going to keep the balancer on Dad's motorhome 440 because it is a cast crank engine, which means it's external balance, and we don't want to run without that balancer. So that just means we're not going to be able to have as short of a snout as I'd like, but I need to get that measurement. So back to the motorhome engine. So since our mock-up engine doesn't have a crank in it or a balancer, I need to have those for measuring to know just how far it's going to stick off that external balance dampener. So that's where we need to get all this taken off and get it mocked up on this engine. So let's get at it. Okay, well, we got all that manifold off, which I think I showed you. And got all the studs out of this one. We got 4 studs in total to remove, and 1 that needs to be extracted because it's broke clean off. And by we, I mean, because whose engine is it? So that means you get to take the broken shit out.
I didn't break it.
I didn't break it either, but it's got to come out. And it's broke flush off, so that'd be fun. But that'll probably be for tomorrow, because it's getting late. Dad's been working on tractor all day, and I've been on the phone yet again all day. Here we are back with the 440 next morning, and we are replacing 150-pound lump of iron for probably 70 pounds worth of aluminum. But it's okay, because 70 pounds of aluminum is way cooler. So just got the old valley kind of vacuumed out. It's very dirty. Anna's here. And Dad's working on his tractor still. So I'm going to get this valley off. We'll get a look at the inside of the valley, see how it looks, the lifter galley. And all right, Dad, are you ready for this? Are you ready to see how sludgy it's going to be or how clean it's going to be?
Nasty freaking.
Let's take our bets. Anna, is it going to be nice and clean, or is it going to be all crap?
It's going to be crap.
Stupid normal car oil.
So you're thinking it's going to be all sludgy?
Diesel engine oil all the time. It'd be clean as a whistle.
All right, are you ready? Everybody take your bets. Place them in the comments. Ha!
Look at that, like brand freaking new.
Y'all thought it was going to be all super sludgy. It's only got like 40,000 miles on it. That is incredibly clean.
What's wrong with that cam back here on the back? Second one in.
That's just bad castings. Look at that. You actually see the casting flaws in the camshaft. Wow, that is a rough cam. Look at that. It's all original though. That's for sure. Original spec at least. So that's pretty impressive. Really, really impressive. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dad. This would be a great engine to set a blower on. Alright, let's get the rest of it vacuumed out and start test fitting.
Yeah, you used to seeing a nice clean engine.
No. No.
I figured it'd be all nasty.
This is the kind of girlfriend you want to bring home to your parents. This is the one you generally bring home to your parents. A train wreck. Train wreck.
That's rude.
Alright, so everything's off the engine. We had to go to 2 different stores to get all the hardware because it uses Allen bolts. A little cleanup to do here. Engine is exceptionally clean, but where the breathers were, they weren't sealing up to whoopee-doo. So, I don't know why the air compressor just kicked on, but it did. But, yep, we're going to get that intake on here, get the blower on here, and we'll be able to finally start to measure for a blower snout. Sweet. What says you, Anna?
Good luck.
Thanks. Alright, well, we got the intake bolted on. Look how much bigger that engine just got. That means we went from like maybe this to about like that. So don't shave too close, right, Dad?
Right.
Right.
It's not a pimple.
It's not a hair either. Oh. Now we're gonna get this thing. We're gonna get this thing bolted on, and we can do what we're finally here to do. We also noticed that the radiator hose is going to become an issue. It's got to be shorter up here on this end, so that's why you do mock-up with the actual engine, with everything on it. Ooh, let's just videotape this part of the engine, because this part of it really lets it down right now. We'll just stick with that top end. So I got the clutch fan off. We'll get all the heater hose stuff off later, but right now I'm going to get that crank pulley off, because that is a no-go. And I've got this old worn out blower crank pulley. Hopefully it'll fit on that balancer. And that'll kind of give us our one groove, and maybe that'll be able to run the water pump, maybe the alternator. We'll see how it goes if we're going to be able to run an alternator and all that kind of stuff. But get that crank pulley off. Hopefully this will fit. It's 32 tooth, but it's worn out, as you can see. Had a bad day. But at least that'll give us a place where we can legitimately measure off of now. What it says you did?
Reckon so.
Man, a few words. Okay, guys and gals, so I'm gonna just let you know, if you want to put a blower on your engine, get ready to do a lot of measuring. And me and a tape measure, we're not friends, if I haven't said that ever before. So we've got this old junk pulley on here. We know that needs to be spaced out, oh god, 2 1/4? No, 2 1/2. It needs to be spaced out. Actually, it only needs to be spaced out about 2 1/8, but I want 2 1/2 if I can, so that way it can register on the hub hole right there. And that'll get us perfectly in line with the top hat style crank pulley, or water pump pulley. And then figuring out, because we're going to have to space that out, if I didn't already say that. But, you know, this all depends on if the actual pulleys and stuff, the Good Vibrations, has the same deal. Which, by the way, we're getting all of our blower accessory stuff from Good Vibrations Racings. They're probably not going to cut us a deal, not that we care, but figure, you know, I talked to the guy one time, he was pretty chill, pretty cool. They didn't want me to buy anything until after I knew exactly what I needed, so pretty cool guy for that part. Dad's trying to clean up back here, and 727s is stands. That's about all they're good for, those two. That one is absolutely junk. That one, that's what happens when you try to neutral drop. When your car's broke down in the middle of an intersection or down the road, and Dad goes, get it up there about 3,500, put it neutral, and drop it in the drive. That is what happens. That case is cracked, and seriously, not going to get on this subject, but don't do a neutral drop. You can get hurt, seriously. Alrighty, guys and gals, that's where I'm going to leave you off for now. I'm going to spend the next couple of days talking with the guys at Good Vibration, seeing if we can get all the right parts to make this blower work on this 440. And I'll be checking back in with you once that is done. Oh, baby. Hey, guys and gals, so I just want to go ahead and say something. I mentioned something about using Good Vibrations for all of our blower stuff. That has changed. I called them this morning, maybe hoping they could help me source all these parts. Didn't happen. It was the worst phone call, worst customer service I ever dealt with, and I've dealt with some pretty terrible customer service. Viewer reached out to me. Jimmy, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you, man, and thank you for your information. He got me hooked up with a guy named Rick Dean, I believe, at Dean Blowers. And the dude, oh my God, we spent an hour and 22 minutes back and forth figuring out absolutely everything. I mean everything to get a blower drive set up for this thing. And it was right at, I think, 1,100 bucks for everything. The snout, the pulleys, the idler. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's kind of just the cost of doing things. You could probably do it cheaper if you placed it out, but this is our spacers, everything to make it work on this setup. As you can see, my straight edge. That's not very straight because the engine is tilted back, so don't worry about that. But if you're going to do a supercharger, get a hold of Dean. He's on Facebook. I'll put a little link in the description to him. Awesome guy to talk to. Good sense of humor. That's what customer service is supposed to be. Not, I'm too busy, take your questions somewhere else, you just need to buy a kit. Well, unfortunately, the big names don't have a kit that'll work with this setup because that's an old intake. However, guys at Dean Blowers, amazing people. So there's that. All right, so guys, remember, it's just a rattle can rebuild, but we're gonna put a timing chain in it. Dad's getting ready to pull that cover off, but I think we got the block about as clean as we really need it for these purposes. What's that look like, Dad? What do you think that chain's gonna look like?
That's gonna look like a brand new one.
It should, as low mileage this thing had. Place your bets down in the comments. How do you think it's gonna look? It's already got a double roller.
Double roller, RV, man. RV is the good shit.
That's a real Chrysler one. Look at that, the Pentastar.
You don't fuck around with RV motors.
Okay, it's got a little bit of slop in it.
It's got a little bit
of schmoots.
Even the new one will have play, but it's getting sideways. Yeah, see it's sideways play?
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and replace it. Okay, for all the weirdos out there who really want a new timing chain, there it is, brand new one. Only thing they really had in stock, Edelbrock Performer Link. You can get that gear on there and lined up dot to dot, just how the other one came off. We're not going to mess with any kind of cam timing or nothing. It's just a stock motor home cam. Well, what says you did?
You're about ready to squirt it, ain't you?
What? I'd rather Dad never use that again. Something about those words coming out of his mouth. But yes, we're ready to paint the engine. It's not going to be spectacular, so don't expect it to be super spectacular. It's going to be good enough for who it's for, which is us. And it won't be corporate blue, which is the worst damn color ever made, next to all that lime green that all the derby guys paint their engines. That stuff makes me want to throw up every time I see it. Turn out pretty dang good. Well, yeah, we're not taking the starter off, so we're just painting over the starter. But yeah. Got 2 or 3 good coats on there. Let that kind of cure up a little bit. Maybe we'll wait till tomorrow to paint it, but probably not. I'm probably going to paint it tonight. Flog it. Make sure you get the side of me that makes me look thin, you know.
Good looking charger.
Just make sure I look.
A tractor. A van. Pickup. Surf truck. Oh, here's the engine.
Are you ready, Dad?
Yeah, let's see what that shit looks like. Look at that, it's green. It's like something they'd paint back in the 50s in the kitchen.
Kind of does, doesn't it? Oh, this is a good paint. This smells pretty.
Or like a 57 Chevy was kind of green like that sometimes.
They did have a color like this for the 57. Look at the coverage on that.
That baby's spraying good. Where'd you get that paint?
This is from Jegs. This is the Duplicolor engine enamel, part number DE1619.
Oh, we dang.
Chrysler green, if anybody wants it. They call it green, but it's actually the turquoise color. It threw us. We were looking at getting this color. This is what I'm going to paint my 340 for my Duster when it gets back from the machine shop. But don't worry about painting the exhaust port. It's going to burn out anyways. But I wanted turquoise. OER has it, but they want $22 a can or some shit like that. And I was like, no, we'll paint it a different color. And then we found this stuff under the name of Chrysler Green, which is not green, unless you're colorblind.
Looks kind of green to me.
You're colorblind.
I didn't think I was colorblind.
When it dries, it'll turn a little more blue. It's kind of like Detroit diesel green in a way, which is the color we could have painted this.
Yeah. All GM-y and stuff.
I like Detroit diesel green. They want it restored? The rattle can rebuild to the rescue.
How much they get out of that can of paint?
This stuff was actually pretty cheap. It's like $6 or $7. Don't quote me. It's way better than that OER price. We almost bought everything Jegs had in stock. And it's like, oh, we better get primer too, because Hemi Orange is one of those paints where it doesn't hardly cover for crap. And I didn't know if this was going to be the same deal. I'm glad we got plenty of it. We don't need it, but I like the coverage of it. Alright, well there's the engine. So, might get some clear coat, maybe not, don't know yet, but I'm going to work on getting everything else painted and we'll show you more once all the blower stuff really gets here. Get her all mocked up, and in the next video you'll see us probably dropping her in the car. Well guys, I'm back from San Antonio. Got to see the Rammstein concert. Best show in the world. All I'm going to say. Anyways, so we got some parts in from Jegs and Dean's blowers. We got an aluminum water pump setup from Jegs, just mocking it up right now. And we got all of our blower stuff from Dean. I just got the coupler put on the front of the blower. We got our snout. We got our 50 and 55 tooth pulleys. These are 8mm pulleys, what he recommended. And we got a belt, we got an idler set up, we got everything in here as a kit. Like I said, I think it's like $1,000, $1,100, something like that. So I'm gonna get my mock-up done, make sure everything's gonna line up where we need it. I gotta go drill and tap the balancer to 3/8 instead of 5/16. But get all this mocked up and make sure our measurements line up, and wish us luck. Well, would you just look at how pretty that is? So, had to get it all mocked up to see how it was all gonna work together. The snout and everything's already on there. Loctited all the bolts. Gaskets in place. The new aluminum water pump. Motor plate might be on backwards. Not 100% sure on that one. But just kind of getting an eyeball where things are going to be. And let me take you back in the garage. And let me show you what we're working on now. Alrighty, well here's our spacers. Our V-groove pulley. And now this will be assembled this will be in the, well, let me just grab the balancer. So we have our stock 440 external balance dampener. The spacers are going to go in there to take up all the space that's wasted inside that dish. Then this goes on, and then our pulley. Now of course the bolts are going to suck that down tight. Now what we have to do, this is a necessary thing if you want to run a blower on this setup, which again, not recommended with a stock external balancer and all this stuff, but this is what we're doing to make it work. These are 5/16 holes. We have to drill these out to 3/8. So I was doing some experiments on this piece of plate. I don't know, I like the 5/16 hole that was tapped out to 3/8, or if I like the 21/64. I like the 5/16. So I've already cleaned the balancer up a little bit. We're gonna chuck this up at the drill press, drill these holes out, retap them for 3/8/16. Okay, so we got one hole drilled and tapped to 3/8. We drilled all the holes to 5/16. Just the way I wanted to do it. So now we just got to tap the rest of these, and then we can put all that stuff on there. This is one of those necessity things. We're going to put a blower on a stock balancer. These need to be 3/8, not 5/16. 5/16 is too small, too little. 3/8, good enough. So tap the rest of these, good to go.
Alrighty, guys and gals.
So we got the balancer put back on. Might be a little preemptive, but I need to get all this stuff measured up. Got our first big spacer on there, and as it turns out, I had that little adapter spacer, little guy on there, and it stuck everything out actually too far. Removing that guy, and if I just put the V-groove pulley up against here, we are pretty close as far as alignment. I can machine a little bit of material off of this back, and I can get this perfectly in line with the water pump pulley. It's going to clear beautifully. As you can see, we pull that down stretched. We're going to clear it. And by the way, Dean Blowers, great dude. So what I need to do is I need to actually open up this. Oh no, we're not going to open this up. We're going to leave this as it is, and we're going to turn this pilot here down until it fits in here, because that's what this spacer actually was doing. Is it's big on this side to butt up into here, and then it's got the small pilot to go into that, which is also the same as the crank pulley. So we're going to do that. We're going to knock this thing back off of the balancer, put it in the lathe, turn it, and then we'll cut a little bit off the end of it so that way it gets it perfectly in line with this pulley, which is bolted down tight, and we should be good to go. Okay, well, I got the pilot turned down a little bit. We're still off just a little bit, but before I turn this down and shrink it a little bit, I'm going to probably go ahead and take this motor plate off, make sure it's on the right way, put the gaskets in there with the sealer, and make sure this water pump is spaced exactly where it needs to be. I don't think it's going to move out that much with the gaskets, but I want to make sure. And then if we need to do anything else, we can do all that spacing, but this is where having a lathe is really paying for itself. Wow, would you just look at that? I know, guys, it looks like a lot of things got done. You didn't see it? All I did was put valve covers on, really. Dad and I put the oil pan, got the pickup all set up last night, so oil pan's on, sealed up. All that's left to really do is get this engine off the stand, made to the transmission in the garage, and whoop, right in the car. So we got some spacers underneath the carburetors because I needed spacers for the 660s. This one works and clears. I got to clean this linkage, make sure it's free. This one still hits this Speedmaster piece of crap adapter. So what I'm going to do, instead of putting like real tall spacers, which I could do, I think I'm just going to cut in a notch right in line with it, so that way this has room to move and operate. Or I'll just get 1-inch tall spacers. It doesn't really matter. It's a blown 440. It's going to look wild. Big shout out again to Dean. We didn't end up using that one spacer like I showed you, and I ended up machining this one back about, oh god, what was it, 80 thousandths. And we got our belt alignment pretty freaking true. I got to go about another 10 thousandths, I think, to get that perfect. But that's where that lathe is really coming in handy. Otherwise, I've been trying to find a special spacer that would have been the exact right length. And when you're doing stuff like this, you really, there's nothing you can buy. It's just going to be an easy bolt-on kit. You're going to have to modify things to make do. And you could probably get by without the lathe, but I highly recommend a lathe if you're going to get into something like this. Chrome valve covers look freaking sweet on the turquoise. I really wanted to run those Wyans, but they just won't work because the blower linkage gets in the way where that breather was. So chrome valve covers like what Dad had on the 69 Charger back in high school. Blower drive's all set up. All I gotta do is tighten the bolt on the tensioner, and this is pretty ready to rock and roll. We had to get a 4-inch long bolt to go through the spacer and all the pulleys. There it is. 55 pulley on the bottom, 50 pulley on top. That's the tooth count. We can swap those, but that gives us about the right drive ratio to run about 7 to 8 pounds of boost. So we'll be good to go there. The only thing I don't like is I wish this stuff wasn't so shiny and billet. But oh well, it'll age and it'll look more like this with time. So there's the blown 440 for the BarelyCuda. I really got to thank you guys for checking this out. And if you're curious why I'm spending so much money on this, here's the truth. It's probably $3,000 here. Dad bought that engine and that transmission right there for 800 bucks from our good friend Dave. Call that transmission 200 bucks, call the engine 600. There you go. I know, not super easy to buy a 440 anymore for that kind of money, but it can happen. And the blower, 800 bucks from Ed. The intake, 300 bucks. The carburetors, I have $1,000 in those, but didn't really need to buy those, but I wanted them. So it's more than probably 3,000, but I mean, you do the math. Oh, and the whole drive kit from Dean was $1,100. I did check my receipt. And that's the belt, everything. And that's my spacers. So that's the whole drive kit. Custom picked out for this. I don't know how much longer Dean's gonna be doing the blower stuff. So if you're gonna do a blower in the future, I highly recommend it. And by the way, I just noticed this belt is not exactly where it needs to be. The idler's got to get adjusted. This belt on the bottom is a little bit forward in. It'll get pushed out, so don't worry about that. We'll get all that with fine adjustments. So there it is, the blown 440 for the BarelyCuda. The next time you see this, we'll be getting mated to the transmission and going into the car, which I'm hoping we could do this weekend. But if you also notice, we got tractors to build, and we don't film this stuff. This is just projects for Dad. Unfortunately, that 190 XT diesel engine, it destroyed a rod again. So we're gonna have to get a crank, and we're gonna have to completely go through that engine 100%. So that's also on the back burner project. So here's the 440. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video as always. So as always, take care and bye-bye.